What is going on, everybody? It is great to have you with me. It is the Purple and Gold pregame show, week 2 edition. The Minnesota Vikings, unfortunately, did not hold up their end of the bargain in week 1 against Tampa Bay. So this big game that we got at the Eagles got even bigger. 0-2. That's not a good start. We got a great show for you tonight. I've got Dave from Vikings First and Skull in the green room. He's going to join us here. But amazingly enough, most of the media is picking the Vikings to lose. Who here is surprised by that? Absolutely nobody. But there was one girl who stuck by her guns begrudgingly. And then there's a play that we need to remind ourselves the last time we got a victory in Philadelphia.
I'm going to go, it's a love-hate, but I got to go Kirk Cousins, 3 touchdowns on the road.
All right.
3 touchdowns on the road. I'm going trick shot 2023 season from behind
Just shot
the
banks
camera.
on it. If you goes in, he goes for it.
Oh! That was awesome. Whoa! Wow. Vikings by 40.
And I never make them. It's so great.
But ran a good route on that play. Ball's out, picked up by the Vikings. Joseph, can he win this long foot race? Linval Joseph, no flags, touchdown Minnesota.
That brings back some good memories. We've got Dave in the building as well. Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. And that was a wonderful memory. I love seeing Big Round Bellies.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that. Mr. Big Round Bellies himself. I said, you know what? I got to put that in there. I had to put that in there anyway. But now that I got Dave on here, I'm just like, hey, big man rumbling down the sideline. I remember him having the Darth Vader mask at the end because he was so worn out. But how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine. Did you know that afterwards he was trying to suck oxygen?
Yeah.
The oxygen bottle was not turned on.
Is that right? So that was just him, just all for naught. Of course it was. But you know what? They were trying to keep our guy winded for longer, but they failed because we still won that game. Let's get some shouts in the building with people who are already joining us. Thank you so kindly, everybody. Holy cow, I got to scroll a while here. We got NFL. We got Jim NFL in the building. What's going on, Jim? Jim says he's not watching the game, so he can be depressed later. All right. What's up, McAndrews? How you doing? Good to see you here as well. Gary is in the building. What is going on, Gary? Again, a pleasure meeting you this past weekend, as well as everybody else there, including our guy, Scold Your Soup. Yo, what's going on? Let's get this dub tonight. You are correct, sir. You are correct. A whole lot of hellos, so we'll just kind of scroll on by. What's going on? Hey, Ryan, my guy, what's going on? Good to see you, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. The matriarch is in the building. Mary, what's going on? Glad you're feeling better. I hope you got this thing kicked. Shout out to Mary, everybody. Shout out to Mary. What's going on? We got a house call from the doctor, Dr. Proto, in the building. What's going on? Brian B, what's going on? Thanks for joining as well. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody. We got 16 people in the building so far. Hit them like buttons. Wipe your feet at the door if you haven't done so already, if you could, please. And let's get this chat pumping here. I got to make sure I said it. Sean the Bomb 16. This is my first time seeing you, Sean. So special shout out to Sean. Thank you so much for joining. We very much appreciate you. Same goes for Skull Nation 54. Shout out everybody to Skull Nation 54. Say hello to them. First time joining us. We have the single greatest YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, whatever handle of all time. My worthless opinion in the building, because your opinion is never worthless, especially on my show. I think I got everybody. Did I miss anybody? Got a shout out, everybody.
Gary?
I got Gary. Oh, we got Gary. Oh, for
good.
Sure we got. Oh, we got
Gary
got Blood Eagle Smeagol. What's going on, Blood Eagle? Thanks for joining us. He's got the Randy Moss Moon as part of his avatar, so we know we got to shout him out as well. Absolutely, you know that. And
I see Mr. McAndrews is here. Woohoo! And David Costello.
We got McAndrews. We got Vikings Jerome. What's up, Vikings Jerome? Good to see you as well. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. We got David Costello. Hey, guys, sitting in the Airbnb. There you go. Shout out to David. He and his wife were in town this past weekend for the Gophers and Vikings game, all the way from Scotland. He hit me up on one of my videos. He's like, I'm coming in for week 1. Wasn't able to catch him at Skullfest, but hey, we'll get him next time. Thanks so much for joining tonight. Appreciate you. Did I miss anybody else? Did I not get everybody on the screen? I think I got everybody this time. If not, put another one in there and say, Justin, you missed me, you knucklehead. But all right. Quick recap of this past weekend. The defense, in my opinion, played well enough. Were they perfect? No, they were not perfect. But 20 points at home, you got to win that game if you're an offensive team. What do you think, Dave? What are your thoughts? Let's wrap up last week real quick. What are your thoughts?
Hey, if they hold the Eagles to 20 points, we should win. If they hold anybody to 20 points, we should win.
Yes.
I looked up the 20-point number, and if we end up with 20 holding the whole season, an average of 20 points per game, we'll be ranked 5th on defense. I don't have a real big issue with defense. They're going to get better. The communication's going to get better. Now, I'm assuming they're switching signs, not doing the woo, 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 woo stuff tonight, or not the exact same woo, woo, woo stuff.
Right.
But I look forward to it. And tonight we get to see Marcus Davenport
Finally.
For the first time.
I'm glad he is going to be in the building and in uniform tonight, because we need all the weapons we can get defensively to contain Jalen Hurts. On my preview show this morning, what I said was you must maintain your gap integrity. You must maintain your assignments. Yes, on occasion, you're going to have to do some of those surprise blitzes. That New England got him twice last week. They sacked him 3 times, and 2 of them were surprise blitzes, much like what Antoine Winfield did to Kirk Cousins that we saw. That's what the Vikings are going to need to do. But more than that, we know how much Jalen Hurts loves doing that run-pass option. You're going to have to assign, whether it's Ivan Pace, who's the obvious example, assign him as a spy on Jalen Hurts. That means you got 10 guys that really have the responsibility of 11 positions when you're taking one of your pieces out. They have got to be disciplined, because if Jalen Hurts goes off against us, it doesn't matter what our offense does. We'll talk more our offense later, but that's the key to me, is just be disciplined. Because we weren't disciplined last week at home.
Well, you realize last week we blitzed at the highest rate in the NFL, 47%. So I expect to see that probably again tonight.
I would concur, but
and that should include run blitzes as well.
Yes, absolutely. I say you take one guy, and if Jalen Hurts even makes it look like he's doing a run pass option, that guy, just run at Hurts every play.
Mm-hmm.
Run into him. Wrap your arms around him, and if he still got the ball, then finish your tackle. And if he doesn't, fine. But you know what? If he does that 17 times in a game and you hit him 17 times, I'm not saying be dirty about it. I'm not saying let's go Sean Payton and Greg Williams on the bit. That's not what I'm saying. But you hit him and you let him know that you're there. Because at the same time, the other thing too is if you do blitz him, or even if you do a standard pass rush in the standard defense, you've got to maintain your gap integrity, because if he gets outside that pocket, he can be deadly. And at that point, oh boy, going to be a long game.
The edges need to contain, but their also responsibility is to get acquainted with the quarterback, is a polite way to put it. And we used it way back in the day when we were going against the Wishbone and the Veer and other options. You want to make that quarterback know you're there, so he starts to make decisions quicker, so he doesn't need to know that you're there, so he doesn't get hit by you. So that's the goal tonight. If they can do that and keep them all bottled up, I think we can win this football game.
I think so too. Shout out to Brian, who says living in Tampa has been a rough week. Oh, Brian, we feel for you, man. We feel for you. Because it's been a rough enough week up here. I can't imagine what it's like for you, my brother. So shout out again to Brian B. Offensively. Okay. Last year, we had games like what we had this past Sunday. Usually it was the fourth quarter where we actually did something. Not the fourth quarter is we didn't do anything except go 3 and out twice. Having said that, what I said in my video and what I maintain, and I want your opinion on this, Kevin O'Connell is going to have to adjust his way of thinking. And what I mean by that is some coaches play their system and some coaches play their opponent, or they play what their players are good at. You know, Chili was no, I'm running the West Coast offense, whether my personnel fits it or not. Some defensive coordinators say, I'm going to run my system, whether my personnel fits it or not. Mike Tomlin was a 4-3 guy. He went to Pittsburgh, who's a 3-4, and he said, you know what? I'm running towards my personnel, because why wouldn't I do that? I think the biggest concern that I have from last week from KOC is he wants to do these long developing routes because that's what he did in Los Angeles. And I say that's well and good in Los Angeles. And you can say all you want that Kirk might be better than Matt Stafford. That's debatable. I'm not going to get into that. But you had a better offensive line in Los Angeles. You don't have that offensive line. This offensive line, whether it has been improved over the last year and change or not, the continuity or not, you've got to find a way to do shorter passes because this Philadelphia Eagles defense it's definitely top 5. It might be the best in the NFL. This rookie Carter kid, he's already a man-child after one game. So pack a lunch.
And that's not leaving out Fletcher Cox, who is playing tonight.
Yes. So, offensively, run short passes. Now, I don't mean tight end screens. You can throw those the hell away. I don't want to see a tight end screen for the rest of the season. Offensively. Oh, and last part offensively, and I'll let you go. You got to run Alexander Mattison more than 11 times. I'm not expecting Alexander Mattison to run 25 times for 130 yards. That's just not going to happen. But part of the reason the running game was a little ineffective is because you kind of abandoned it a little too early. For me, 11 carries for your not so much bell cow, but the head of your committee. You got to run more, don't you, Dave?
Yeah, you would think so. And he's moving towards more of the Shanahan, the heavy style of setting up the offense, which is fine. It's good. It causes mismatches, but it also should improve the run game. So let's see that. Let's see a little bit less of CJ Ham, doing his thing. Let's see more of that run game. And you're right about quick passes. Now, when it comes to the screens help defeat blitzes, right? That's the primary use of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you're getting blitzed from the middle, where should the screen go? Primarily, hopefully, in the middle, because that's where that space has been vacated as they're rushing. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure, KOC needs to make sure that Kirk's reading things right. And if the screen comes up, that he's called an audible to make sure that whoever it is, I don't care if it's TJ Hawkinson, fine, have him come across the middle. Whoever it is sets up in the middle in that blank spot.
In the voided area, yeah.
That was just voided, and they go. We do that, we'll be fine.
Let's talk a little bit about Justin Jefferson.
He's a beast.
He's not human. That's my line. He's not human. You had, 9 catches? You had 138 yards in the first half and 12 yards in the second half on only 2 targets and 2 catches. I understand that they didn't have a whole lot of plays in the second half. They had 3 drives, 2 of which went 3 and out. It is malpractice. Now, whether that's on the quarterback or the play caller, it is malpractice to not be targeting Justin Jefferson on at least every 6 plays. If you have 2 consecutive 3 and outs without Justin Jefferson being targeted, you did something wrong. Now, again, I don't know to put that on the head coach who calls the plays or Kirk Cousins. I do remember seeing a play where he was well protected and both the tight ends and Justin Jefferson were open, and he checks it down to Alexander Mattison, maybe because he's in his head and he's got those happy feet and he's just like, I don't want to get hit, or maybe somebody's coming. I don't know. All I know is this. There were plays to be had in the second half with Justin Jefferson, and you cannot, under any circumstances. I remember John Madden always had some really good lines. When Randy Moss came in the league, by year number 2, he said, I would always throw 2 deep passes a quarter to this guy because it's either going to be a long play, a pass interference, a touchdown, or at the worst, an incomplete pass. 2 passes a quarter where you just drop back and you let Randy Moss run deep. Now, I'm not saying we do that with Jefferson, but my point is that he needs to be involved all the time. What say you, Dave?
It's reminiscent of Mike Tyson's Randy ratio.
Do it.
And the same thing goes with JJ. Get him the ball. And he did make his feelings known this week.
Yeah. That,
hey, in the second half, I was open, throw me the ball. But I think the issue there, not so much on play calling, but I think it was if Kirk gets hit early in the game, and often it throws him off his game, and he tends to speed up, and timing's off. And we saw a little bit of it. It just seemed a fraction off last week. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully he's in the right mindset this week, knowing that he's going to get hit this week and that this is a revenge game. And I hope they're coming to this game with that sort of attitude that, hey, we may get beat up, but we're going to play the best we can. And that means getting JJ the ball. I think JJ just wants to rub it in Darius Slay's face all night long.
He's out for blood after last season's game, to say the least. But for me, it's not about forcing the ball to JJ. It's you can't ignore him. And again, if a defense literally took 3 guys and put them all on Justin Jefferson to say, we're literally not going to let you catch the ball. Well, now you're playing 10 on 8. And you should be able to take advantage of that with your other weapons, your Jordan Addisons, your KJ Osborns, your TJ Hawkinsons, heck, even your Josh Oliver and Alexander Madison. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't put 3 guys on JJ in the second half. And this ridiculous notion that we've heard for years. And so it's not just the KOC. It's been about 3 or 4. Well, it's been his entire career. Oh, they were blanketing Justin Jefferson in the second half. So what? Oh, so you're telling me that if we see blanket coverage on Justin Jefferson, we immediately eliminate him as an option in the play, Kirk? No. So to me, you've got to have Justin Jefferson involved early, and you've got to keep him involved. You have to have him involved all night. It's kind of like playing Madden. You run the same play until they stop you 2 or 3 times in a row.
Exactly. Hey, back in the day, if we were running the football, my coach was always like, hey, if we get 3 yards, I'm going to run it every play because, that'll give us a first down every time and we'll march right down the field.
Until they find a way.
To stop us.
And
that was a big deal for the offensive linemen.
Too. Well, I was going to say, this is your big round bellies coming out of here.
Yeah. Right? We were to push. That's in the run game. We were attacking, and we were pushing that defensive line back, and we were giving the running back room before he even hit the hole.
Right.
He had at least 1 or 2 yards.
Realistically, what's your X factor in tonight's game? We talked a little bit about what we need to do both offensively and defensively, but what's your, okay, if the Vikings can do this, that gives them the leg up? Because we already know we're kind of behind the 8 ball. Philadelphia's a better team. We don't match up very well, both in the trenches on both sides of the ball. We can talk about Jefferson. We can talk about Cousins and everybody else. But, real quick, shout out Viking Gaming in the building. What's going on, Viking Gaming? I got to get you shouted out. Okay. What's your X factor tonight? What do we got to do?
If Kirk Cousins gets in rhythm early, this is going to be a good game. That may be short passes to start, but it builds his confidence.
Right. Kirk is the kind of quarterback that when things are going well, he's outstanding. And when they're not going well, he's brutal. He's got the biggest variance of almost any quarterback in the league. And frankly, over the last 10, 15 years. And last year, he had improved on his numbers against pressure. But one thing from Kirk that if I could sit down and say to him right now is don't let that interception at the end of the half bother you. You take your 5 minutes, you talk it over with your coach, and then you let it go. Because we've clamored for years for Kirk to not always take the checkdowns, to not be afraid of quote-unquote dangerous passes that may end up getting intercepted. And you know what? If they get intercepted, we live with it and we move on. I remember the game against the Washington football team last year where in the first half he threw an interception targeting JJ during the 2-minute drill. And he came back and he wasn't captain checkdown in the second half. I get it. Some of it was game flow. Some of it was play calling with only having 3 possessions in the second half. But it appeared to me that in the second half, he was a little too hesitant. There were times where, you had JJ open for a 12-yard in cut or a 15-yard dig route. But he didn't take those opportunities. And there were times it appeared like, for example, why stop throwing the ball to CJ Ham? Okay, just stop. And if that means Kevin O'Connell needs to take him off the field to take away the option from him, then do that. What's the?
I mean, once or twice a game is fine.
Yes, not 4 or 5. That's too many. That's too many.
Now, Dave L said 4 consistent quarters would be nice.
Yes.
We do that, Dave L. I think we could win the NFC. That's the key. That's what killed us last year. That's what killed us in week 1 this season. You know, on Sunday. If they can put 4 consistent quarters together, sky's the limit. Absolutely. Even with Ed Ingram, TYA, sky's the limit.
Shout out to Dave L. Shout out T-Bass in the building. What's going on, T-Bass? Good to see you. Shout out to Skull TYA. Shout out to my nephew's twin, Too Evil to Hope. I want an actual well, there's that too. Then, well, that's a discussion for another day. But good evening to you guys. Thanks again for joining as well. T-Bass, thanks. Face it, the Vikings are probably going to get well. That's just a great attitude, T-Bass. I can't say that you're wrong, but all right, Mary. Now listen, I would be down for it, but that's just not going to happen. 1, Kirk has a no trade clause. 2, the Jets would have to do some serious salary cap finagling, and 3, most importantly, the Wilfs would never go for that. Would I do it? Yeah, if they lose tonight and start out 1-4, would I do it? Oh, absolutely, I would. But Kirk would never accept it, and the Wilfs wouldn't either. I mean, do you agree with that, Dave, or do you have a
I don't think Kirk would accept a trade, and he's got to be the one. I think maybe Kwesi could talk to Wilfs into it, but I don't think Kirk's going to accept it. But I'd be for it.
Yeah,
if it happened. But let's see how he plays tonight.
Yeah,
hey, maybe he, last week, because they don't play in the preseason, was just knocking off the rust, and now they're back to normal. They got oiled up and they're ready to go.
I will say the same thing tonight that I said in my preview this time last season. Kirk has an opportunity tonight to dispel some more of the narratives. He dispelled some of them last season. Absolutely no doubt about it. We're not going to not praise him for what he did last year, but in a crucial situation with the season on the line, he kind of reverted back. Now, I think some of the narratives that have been spun on Kirk Cousins have been a little too over the top. I think because there's been so many that have been over the top, that some of them that are actually true get put into that same bucket of everybody's just picking on Kirk. But go out there and beat the defending NFC champions in their building. Go out there and outplay Jalen Hurts. Show the world. Nah, I'm not just some nice dude who you saw on Netflix. I'm a dog, or I'm an alpha, or I can bring my team into a hostile environment and represent my team and come out the field with a victory. And you do that. And as I said at the end of my my preview, all the stuff we said all week about blowing the Tampa Bay game and oh great, if we end up the victory tonight and we end up 1-1, then we're right back to where we thought we would be. The ways and means would have been drastically different than anybody who makes predictions. Anybody in the world that said, the Vikings will be 1-1 would have said that they would have beat Tampa and lost to Philly. And it would be so Vikings to blow the game.
Reverse that.
And reverse it. But no, I agree with what T-Bass, I put it up there, but keep telling everybody you got to send someone deep at least 4 to 5 times to put him. Yeah, take the top off the defense. And at the very least, but the only thing I'll say to T-Bass is what we said earlier, is can your offensive line hold up long enough to really do anything about that? But I agree, that should be in the game plan 2 or 3 times a game to just say, hey, everybody go long and let's see what happens. But Skull TYA says Ingram is the X factor, good or bad? Well, I suppose that's true. Ed, don't knock the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands. Now, you had your take on it and whatever. At this point, I don't care. It's one of those things where you could run that play 1,000 times again and it probably would never happen again. But it's just hilarious for the Vikings that a comedy of errors of a strip interception, a beautiful blitz strip sack, and Ed Ingram getting a strip sack, so to speak, all happened in the same game. But I agree, Ed Ingram. Well, I mean, why don't you give us your thoughts on Ed? I mean, is he really as bad as he's come across, or you've talked about him maybe not receiving proper coaching. What are we going to do with this Ed Ingram situation?
As bad as he looks, or as bad as he graded. Actually, I thought he had a better game than that, but he needs to step up. He needs to take that next step, because the stupid shit, like knocking the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands, that's a fluke thing. That never happens. You can do that 1,000 times,
right,
and it never happens. That's a fluke. But our stepping on feet, that's a fluke. But he needs to be able to master how to deal with stunts better and how to pass blocking better. I'm not worried about him run blocking. Last week, I think I showed somebody this week that most of the yardage that Madison got was right behind Ed Ingram. So I'm not worried about that. I think Ed's going to get it. Hopefully, I don't think he's slow to that. So I expect that first game to be sort of a fluke, and we're going to see the improved Ed that we saw towards the end of the season last year. I expect that to show up tonight. So we'll see. And by the way, it was Tony Gonzalez on TV that suggested that the Vikings trade Kirk Cousins to the Jets.
Interesting. Some points were made in the chat that, Kirk already used the Jets to get the Vikings to offer up their offer a little bit. So I don't know that he necessarily really wanted to go to New York. And frankly, again, the Vikings outdid themselves by continuously giving Kirk that no trade clause and giving him all of that power, because I seriously doubt Kirk wants any part of the New York media, if we're just being honest with ourselves. I seriously doubt that. Let me get a couple of shouts.
Plus, he's a family guy, and he'd have to uproot everybody.
Right. I just don't see it happening. But shout out Davey Chains in the building. What's going on, Chains? How are you? Tony Two-Tone, what's going on? Thanks again for dropping by. Same goes, of course, for Jonathan. What's up, my guy, Jonathan? Good to see you. Joey's in the building. What's going on, Jordy? Hot take, guys. Kirk shocks the world. I'd love to see it. We just said it a moment ago. That would tell you something. That would show you something. That would be like, hey, last week was just a fluke. But maybe the Jets would offer the extension that he wants. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. But Skull for Life Barber's in the building also. What's going on? Hey, good to see you, Barber. Good to see you as well. Let's just, I got to get my guy Vaughn up on the screen. What's up, Vaughn? How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining. Appreciate you. If y'all didn't hit them like buttons, wipe your feet at the door. And if you're just joining and you just found me tonight because the YouTube aggregator actually showed me to you, hit that subscribe button and help me get my numbers up. We very much do appreciate that. Also, if you could, after the show, if you don't already subscribe to Vikings First and Scold on YouTube, number one, that's where the post-game show is going to be at, starting at the 2-minute warning. And number two, you could also find them on your favorite podcast aggregator, iTunes, Spotify, etc. We do have content both from our YouTube pages as well as exclusive online content only. So please subscribe to Vikings First and Skull on your aggregator of podcasts on YouTube, and please subscribe to Purple and Gold for Days. I think I just saw a little somebody come into the building that we might know. Shout out our guy Dave from Minnesota Sports Talk. After the show, go on over to his channel. He's going to be doing a live tonight, so hit up my brother over there as well. I think I have everybody in here. All right. We're going to wrap this up here in about 5 to 10 minutes to give you a chance to get your beverages, get your food. Everybody put their predictions in the chat. Everybody put what kind of food they eating tonight, just so that I can dream about something other than the loaded nachos that I'm having. But what's on your menu tonight, Dave?
Spicy chicken sandwich.
Woo-hoo. From? Or you made it?
Frozen. Buy it at the store. Throw it in the oven.
Appreciate it.
I'll put pickle.
There you go. Appreciate you, Chains. Appreciate you as always. Give us your final score prediction, Dave. How's this going to go down?
I don't do that. But
you don't?
No.
Okay.
Every time I do, I lose. So I stopped.
Well, pick the Eagles then.
No, generally when I do that, I win.
Right.
The Vikings can win this game.
Yes.
It's a matter of how they come out. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think the over-under is like 49. Mm-hmm. I could very well see it into the 30s. If the Vikings offense can score over 30 points, I think we win this game.
On my channel, I said 28-24 Vikings, and I said it at the end. It makes absolutely no sense, and that's what the Vikings do. They make absolutely no sense.
It makes no sense. Crazy.
So, you know what? I'm going for the reverse psychology. I'm going for I picked them to win against Tampa, and they lost. I picked them in every prediction show that I did this summer, whether it was just on a live or their curmudgeon versus the punk. Everybody always picked the Eagles game to be a loss. So now I'm going to pick it to be a win, simply because it would make absolutely no sense. And sometimes what makes no sense is ultimately what the Vikings end up doing. Got to get a couple shout outs. Bandito in the building. What's going on, Bandito? Good to see you. Believe in the upset at the link, raw eagle meat and beer for dinner. Hey, I'm cool with that.
Right.
I am cool for that. Absolutely. Scope for Life is in the building. Sorry I'm late. Hey, you got here. That's all that matters. Thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure meeting you this past weekend there as well. We got my guy Rap in the building. What's going on? Purple Pocket Podcast. I'll say it right now. If you don't subscribe to my brother Rap, go ahead and subscribe to him there. Although most everybody that subscribes to me subscribe to him anyway. But Zed31 is in the house. What's going on? Can win if they play the whole game. And that's the key, Zed. We said that a little bit ago. The Vikings are notorious for not putting 4 quarters together. They haven't put 4 quarters together since 1998, or maybe 2009. Those 2 seasons. Because even in 2017, there was a handful of times where they disappeared for a while. Now, they got away with it because their defense was so doggone good. But yes, they need to put 4 quarters together. They need to score on their first 3 possessions. Here's an idea. Score 10, score 14 in your first 3 possessions. Get a 10-point lead. Heaven forbid, a 10-point lead on the road against Philly. Because then Philly's got to adjust what they're doing, particularly if you're playing well. I forget who had it in the chat earlier, but who do you spy on Jalen Hurts? I say Ivan Pace. Do you agree with that? Or
it's Pace.
Okay.
And if Asamoah is in, Asamoah.
Okay. Two-Tone, what's going on? Vikings, TW. All right. We take it. We'll take it. Brian says Supreme Pizza 28-23 is Brian's prediction. I will take it. 1 before I die. That's my mantra. Dave wants a dynasty. And I said, I'd love a dynasty, but let's get 1 first. But I digress.
Hey, it's that deal. If I ask for a dynasty, maybe I'll get 1.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's go through the scores here. Skull TYA says 21-19. Too Evil to Hope, of course, has got his 102-3. I'm surprised he didn't say 203-2, but I digress. Of all, I'm not going to say that there was like a favorite person that I met this weekend, because I love meeting everybody. But of all the people we met, Too Evil was like the most surprising. It was just like, you're Too Evil. He's like, I'm like, okay. And I say that is because how he is in the chat is totally not who he is in person. And I'm like, okay. Good to meet you. Dropshot Jake. Shout out to Dropshot. I had you up earlier, but I don't know if I said your name, but shout out to Dropshot in the building. Dropshot is stealing my 28-4. So we either on to something, Dropshot, or we're on something. But I'll take that either way. 27-24. I'll take that as well. I'll take it. Let's see. Do we got anybody else we need to get? Oh, there he is. I was wondering if he's going to show up. Skull Mafia is in the building. What is going on, my brother? Again, absolute pleasure meeting you this past weekend. Glad you got home. And yes, we're going to do this thing every single year. And I guess I'll just put it out there now. We said it last night on our Skull Recap Super Show that the idea is we're going to do this for the Vikings home opener every season. Now, when the schedule gets announced and we get, a facility to have it at, obviously we'll try to do a better job, because we can only kind of announced this about a month or so in advance. But now that we actually saw how well it went the first time, when the schedule comes out, we'll try to give everybody a couple months notice to get as many people in the building as we can. Too Evil, of course, 2-14, 2-15 and first pick. Okay. All right. That's going on. What up, Purple Gang? What's going on? T-Bass says, I just cooked a gigantic steak on the grill. Fred Flintstone would be proud.
Way to go, T-Bass.
That's T-Bass. All right. The real question is,
about that thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one of those big sets of ribs where she sets it on the car and tip. So this little skinny girl is strong enough to bring these ribs out, but once she sets it on the car with 6 people in it, it tips the car over. Funny how that works, but I digress. What you got against Dawn Mitchell? Dawn is fine. Hey, we'll get to that one later, Northfield. You text me what you don't like about Dawn. I think she's outstanding. Ryan, what's up? Thanks for stopping by. He's got us 27-20. I'll take that. I will take that. No, Davey, they had a pregame show and then they're going to do a live stream. So they took a break in between, is my guess. You have permission to stomp a mud hole and walk it dry. Yes, sir. T-Bass, Mr. Negativity. Although he did say yesterday, if you want to make money, put some money on the Eagles. Line got down to 6. I don't know what it's at now. I think that was after they
I looked earlier today. It was still 6.
All right. Well, T-Bash, you got in too early. Anyway, let's get back to these scores. And again, Mafia's got 28-23. Scoldger Soup 38-21. Woohoo!
I love it.
Oh my God. I said 31-14 against Tampa Bay. 38-21. I would take that in a minute. Do you know how much fun would live at the 2-minute warner be if we tuned in and we don't have to worry about, are the Vikings going to be able to stop this defense and get one last drive? We already have 38 points on the board. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Skull for Life 24-21. Scoldger Soup 31-28. Scoldger Soup. Yeah. Gary's got 27-14.
Eagles.
Why, Gary? I thought we were friends. Thank you, Gary.
Realistic.
Yeah, I know. But I like when Mafia says, Gary, we were brothers and you broke my heart. No, that's absolutely right. Two-Tone Tony says, hey, Daniil Hunter with 2 sacks. We're going to need some sacks. We're going to need some pressure on him. Absolutely. Oh, of course. Dave, what are you drinking tonight? Thanks, TYA.
Right now, just Diet Dr. Pepper. Or 0. Cherry. I haven't started drinking yet.
Yeah, awesomeness. Shout out to you. Thank you kindly for joining. We appreciate you. Appreciate everybody up in the building here. Well, final thoughts. You go first, and then I'll wrap after that because I have a little something at the end as well that we got. So your final thoughts, my brother, and thank you so kindly for joining me tonight.
You're welcome. My final thoughts is I hope it's a good game and the Vikings play consistent throughout. And they get over the jitters of that first week 1. They come out with a little bit of revenge on their mind, and they pound the Philadelphia Eagles into their own turf. And everybody's going to be wondering, well, why didn't they do that Sunday? That's my final thoughts. I want to see that.
That is the double entendre and the double negative, so to speak, that if we did find a way to pull out a victory tonight, that it's going to slightly be dampered by the fact that we should be 2-0. You know, it's always the, hey, we need more. We're never satisfied. As our guy Ted always says, ESAT Nation, everything sucks all the time. You're right. But at the same time, we owe Philadelphia. Okay. We haven't won in Philadelphia since 2018 with that Linval Joseph rumble that we played at the start. Yeah, we did get them in our building in 2019, but the last couple of times we've been to Philly last year and then thinking back to the championship game, we owe them. Mm-hmm. And we also owe that fan base, if I'm being honest with you. That will never put a team ahead of the Green Bay Packers as my greatest enemy and my greatest rival. But I'll say this. I'll sit down at a bar with a bunch of Packer fans 100 times out of 100 over Eagle fans. Shout out Tony Bell in the building. What's going on, Tony? Good to see you and good to have met you last weekend as well. All right, before I get my final thoughts on the game, I'm going to cut the music because I kind of just rolled right in because I had a guest here today. So, Dave, you get to be the first person ever to be a live true superstar. As you all know, we enjoy so many freedoms in this great nation of the United States of America. So I always give my shout outs and my thank yous to an elite group of individuals. And that is to the active and veteran members of all of our military, including my co-host tonight, Dave. Thank you kindly for your services, for your sacrifice. For the brave men and women who are our police officers, firefighters, EMS, who in times of danger, in times of tragedy, are seen running towards the danger while the rest of us run away from it. To our doctors, nurses, EMS, frontline workers, and home caregivers for taking care of us when we are unable to take care of ourselves. You all have at times thankless jobs, and we do not as a society thank you enough. So every time I got a microphone, whether it's the pregame show or Skull for Days, anytime I got a microphone, I'm going to drop a special thank you to each and every one of you for the sacrifices, and for fighting for our freedoms to allow us to sit here with 30 people in the building on YouTube across the country talking about our Vikings. That's all because of the things that you guys did to make it possible. So thank you kindly, especially to you, my brother Dave. Thank you so much. With that being said,
hey, it takes all of us to make it work. It's a team.
With all that,
Football is a microcosm of life and all of that. So you've got to work together and make it work and hopefully excel at it.
Absolutely. Dropshot. We haven't run a road Thursday night football game in 45 years. And I was thinking, well, that's not right. We won. Oh, no, that game was at home. Oh, no, wait, that game wasn't a night game. Because I'm like, well, those Thanksgiving game. Oh, wait, those Dallas Thanksgiving games were at the 3 o'clock slot. They weren't at the
Thursday night
slot.
games 45 years ago.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's going to be a tough game. I don't foresee if the Vikings do win this, they're not going to blow somebody out tonight. They're just not. This is going to be a game where they have to play almost perfect. They have to hope that Philly, kind of bungles it a little bit like we did last week. But can they win this game? Absolutely, they can win this game. But it's going to take execution. It's going to take discipline. And it's going to take not committing stupid penalties. You know what? I never understood on a field goal or a punt. If I was a special teams coach, if it's fourth and anything less than 6 yards, everybody, don't call for a blocked field goal on 4th and 3, because don't even give your guys the inkling to inch across that line. And there's been some conversation that apparently the guys looked at the official and pointed and said, "Hey, am I lined up right?" And they said yes. I don't know. That seems.
I heard that too.
That seems kind of whatever. But with all that being said, hit the like buttons on your way out. If you didn't hit them already, if you don't already subscribe to not only Purple and Gold for Days, please subscribe there, as well as over on Vikings First and Skol. Reminder one more time that tonight, live at the 2-minute warning, over on Vikings First and Skol, will be Dave, Tyler, myself, and Jonas coming with us tonight, or no?
I don't know if Jonas is going to make it tonight or not. So
okay.
I haven't heard from him today. We'll have to find out. You got to remember, this is a late night game. So it would be, he's 7 hours ahead of us.
Yeah. So it'd be like 3, 4 in the morning. For I didn't think so, but on the possibility. But for certain, myself, Dave, and Tyler. So again, if you don't already subscribe to Vikings First and Skol, go on, head over there. Real quick shout out to Nano Joe. I saw you sneaking in under the wire at the end. Welcome, Nano Joe. Thanks so much for joining. That is it for now. Again, my final score prediction: Vikings 28-24. They're going to find a way to pull this out, if nothing else, for it to be Bizarro World. Want to thank everybody who joined us this evening. Thank you so kindly. It does mean the world to us. Yeah, could me and Dave just have a conversation about this? Sure, but it's a lot more fun when you guys are in the chat, throwing the chats at us all evening long. Thanks again kindly for joining us. Skol Vikes, let's win this game. To the next episode. And Dave, what do you say?
Skol Vikings.